The galaxy had changed. Rising from the darkness of space, millions of worlds pulsed with a soft blue light, the legacy of the builders now awakening after countless eons. Humanity's myths, once dismissed as childish fables, had become the foundation for a new understanding. Ambassador Rhea Carter stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the signals ripple outward like waves across the ocean of stars. Each pulse carried images, sounds, and memories, proof that humanity had remembered what the rest of the galaxy had long forgotten. Commander Dren joined her, arms folded as he scanned the readouts. "They're watching," he said simply. "All of them. Every race, every system," Rhea nodded. "And they are listening." Elder Tavarn stood behind them, a rare smile on his aged features. "The builders are not silent anymore, and neither is humanity." The council in its chambers was in total disorder. Screens flickered with the streams of builder worlds and human myths, impossible to ignore. Delegates shouted, argued, and some even wept. A few younger races whispered with awe, recognizing the truth in the stories they had once ignored. Councillor Vale banged his clawed fist on the console. "Stop this. Shut it down immediately. Humanity has no authority here." A young Yelvani delegate raised its voice. "No, they have revealed truth. These stories are history, not lies. The galaxy must hear them." Vale's eyes narrowed. He had underestimated humanity. He had laughed at their myths, and now the galaxy was seeing evidence too vivid to deny. Meanwhile, on a builder world orbiting a brilliant blue star, the horizon's edge descended toward the largest known chamber. It was the heart of the builder's legacy, a glowing city of towers and spires, each humming with light energy. Rhea stepped onto the surface, her boots echoing against the glowing floor. Every step felt heavy with history, yet comforting as if she were finally home. Dren followed her, his eyes scanning for danger, though none came. The air itself seemed alive with a gentle vibration. "This is incredible," Rhea whispered, looking at the towers reaching into the sky. "All of it. Waiting for us to return." Tavarn approached a glowing pedestal at the center of the chamber. His hands traced the etched symbols. "This is the final record," he said. "It contains the builders' full history and their message for all species. The galaxy will remember if we share it." Rhea placed her hand over Tavarn's. "Then let's show them, not with force, not with fear, but with the truth." At her touch, the city pulsed brighter. Energy flowed outward, forming beams that carried holographic images of the builders across space. They showed beings of light shaping planets, teaching early civilizations, and leaving fragments of memory across countless worlds. Then the images shifted to humanity. Children listening to myths, elders passing stories, storytellers weaving legends. It was a bridge across time, a message that memory and imagination are just as important as technology and power. The council's chambers fell silent as the images reached every system. Delegates stared in awe. Worlds they had assumed lifeless or unimportant now glowed with evidence of the builder's work. Entire histories thought lost were revealed as intertwined with humanity's myths. Vale's voice trembled as he spoke. "Impossible. This cannot be." A young counselor interrupted him. "It is possible, and it is true. We cannot silence history. Humanity has given us the proof." Vale's eyes darted around. He realized that resistance was useless. The galaxy had seen the builder's legacy and the connection to humanity. The council had laughed. They had mocked myths, but the proof was undeniable. Back on the horizon's edge, Rhea stood before the glowing pedestal. The voice of Anaris filled the air, soft yet powerful, like a song carried on the wind. "You have awakened memory," it said. "You have reminded the galaxy that stories are not lies. You have proven that imagination can carry truth across time. You, children of Terra, have done what no other species could. You remembered." Rhea felt tears prick her eyes. We just told the stories." "Stories are the key," the voice replied. "And now the galaxy will know." Dren placed a hand on her shoulder. "The council may have feared it, but truth cannot be silenced," Tavarn added. "And this is only the beginning. Countless worlds are still asleep. Countless memories still wait. Humanity will lead the way." Rhea took a deep breath. "Then we do it carefully. We don't destroy the council. We don't conquer. We teach, we guide. We show the galaxy how to remember." Across the galaxy, civilizations began to shift. Worlds once loyal to the Council now questioned its authority. Younger races embraced the stories, exploring builder worlds for themselves. Ancient ruins came alive as humans and allies activated systems and preserved knowledge. The builders themselves seemed to respond. Lights pulsed across the network, a silent applause that echoed across the stars. They had waited eons for this moment, the moment when someone would remember, and it was humanity. Months passed. The Galactic Council restructured itself. Many of its old leaders, including Vale, were removed from positions of absolute power. Humanity was given a permanent seat in the Council, not as conquerors or rulers, but as keepers of memory. Rhea Carter, recognized across the galaxy, became the first human appointed as the Keeper of Myths, a title honoring her role in awakening the Builder's legacy. Dren became her advisor, the strategist who had guided humanity through danger and opposition. Tavarn remained as a liaison, bridging human knowledge and builder technology. Together they created a new council dedicated to truth, memory, and exploration. On Earth, humanity celebrated quietly, knowing that their myths were more than stories. They were evidence that imagination can survive time, that legends can hold truth, and that humans are capable of shaping not just their world but the galaxy itself. One day, as Rhea returned to the central builder chamber, she noticed a faint inscription at the edge of a glowing wall. It was a message in ancient light, waiting to be read. Those who laugh at the past will be silenced by its echo. She smiled, remembering the day the Council had laughed. They had ignored her people. They had dismissed myths as childish fantasies, but now the galaxy had heard. Now the builders had spoken. Now humanity had become the voice of memory. Rhea whispered softly, "We remembered. We always remembered." From somewhere deep within the void, Anaris stirred again. Not in anger, not in warning, but in pride. A pulse of light traveled across the galaxy, a final acknowledgement of humanity's role. The builders had left a legacy and humanity had kept it alive. Across countless worlds, lights flickered and pulsed in harmony. A new era had begun, one of memory, stories, and truth. And for the first time, the galaxy understood that imagination is a force as powerful as any technology, that stories can outlast empires, that myths can hold history. Humanity had proven itself not through war or conquest, but through memory, through courage, through belief. And the stars, once silent, now whispered back. The voice of humanity had been heard. The galaxy would never forget. The next morning on Artemis 9 began with soft beeping from the console. The ship had entered a quiet sector of space far from any known chart. Outside, faint blue light shimmered through the viewport, a silent ocean of stars waiting to speak. Dr. Ilara Voss sat with a cup of synthetic coffee, staring at the endless black. She had not slept much. The message from Atlas Station still echoed in her mind. The stars will forget many things, but they will remember the light we gave them. It was more than a recording. It was a call. A reminder that humanity's story was still out there, scattered like dust across the galaxy. Her AI companion, Sul, interrupted her thoughts. "Good morning, Dr. Voss. I have decoded partial data from the Atlas archives. It refers to something called the Echo Network. It was a system of signal relays meant to preserve human knowledge after the fall." Ilara turned her chair toward the console. "Were they meant to guide survivors?" "Possibly," Sul replied. "Each relay might contain messages, coordinates, or cultural archives. The nearest active node is at coordinates Delta 9 Theta. Estimated travel time, 42 hours. Ilara's heart lifted slightly. "Then we go there." "Course set," Sol confirmed. "Engaging engines." The ship's thrusters came alive and the stars stretched into long streaks of white. The Artemis 9 was small but resilient, a vessel built by dreamers who still believed exploration had meaning. As the ship slipped, through the silent lanes of interstellar space, Ilara sat by the observation deck, tracing the faint glow of passing nebulas. She thought about her ancestors, the humans who had built the first ships, who had left Earth not out of fear, but out of wonder. They had believed in something greater, the idea that learning and compassion could light the darkest void. Now she was their echo. When the ship arrived at Delta 9 Theta, the scene before her was both beautiful and haunting. A vast debris field floated in a ring around a pale white star. Among the broken metal and shattered satellites was a single intact object, a black sphere the size of a small moon. "Is that it?" Alara whispered. Sol scanned it. "Yes. Identification confirmed. Echo Node 7. Energy signature is weak but stable. Estimated age, 900 years. Alara's pulse quickened. "Bring us closer. Prepare docking sequence." As the Artemis 9 approached, faint lights flickered across the surface of the sphere, ancient circuits waking after centuries of sleep. The docking clamps engaged with a dull metallic click, and a low hum filled the ship. She suited up and stepped into the airlock. "Sul, maintain communication link. I'll need you inside." "Understood. Stay cautious," the AI replied. The hatch opened, and Alara stepped into the unknown. Inside the node was a wide chamber lined with glass pillars. Each one glowed faintly, displaying fragments of images, mountains, oceans, faces, and texts in old languages. The air was thin, cold, and heavy with dust. Her steps echoed softly as she walked deeper inside. A voice suddenly spoke from the chamber walls, old and fragile, like wind over sand. "Welcome to Echo Node 7. This archive is dedicated to the memory of humankind. If you have come seeking the past, you are not alone." Alara froze. "Sol, are you hearing this?" "Confirmed," Sol replied through her earpiece. The voice is automated, likely part of a preserved AI system. She moved closer to the central pillar where the voice originated. The glass shimmered, revealing scenes of life on old Earth, cities rising over green fields, children learning under the open sky, ships leaving the planet for the stars. Alara touched the glass gently. "They recorded everything," she whispered. Then, a message appeared on the screen. "The final coordinates of the Ark fleet are stored in Echo Node 1. Only those who carry the human code may unlock it." Her breath caught. The Ark fleet, that was the evacuation fleet from Earth, right? "Yes," Sol confirmed. "It was humanity's last great migration. If those ships survived, they might still exist somewhere out there." Alara smiled faintly. "Then that's where we'll go. We'll find Echo Node 1. But before she could leave, something else caught her attention. A small device resting inside a transparent case. It was a memory capsule, marked with the old Earth emblem. "Sol, scan that object. Device integrity at 70%. It may contain personal recordings." Alara carefully lifted it and pressed the activation switch. The air shimmered again, and a hologram appeared, a young woman standing in what looked like a garden under a blue sky. "My name is Leah Cade. I was part of the Eden Project. If you're watching this, then humanity's story didn't end. We built the Echo Network to teach the future who we were, not just explorers, not just survivors, but people who loved, who dreamed, and who remembered." The hologram paused, then smiled softly. "If you find the others, tell them Earth remembers them too." The image faded, leaving Alara silent and still. For a long moment she simply stood there, surrounded by light and memory. She could almost feel the warmth of that lost garden, smell the air of a world she had never known. Finally, she whispered, "I'll tell them. I promise." Back aboard the Artemis 9, Alara studied the coordinates stored in the capsule. They pointed toward a region known as the Silent Frontier, an uncharted part of space where signals often vanished. Sol spoke after a pause. "Dr. Voss, navigation data shows unstable gravitational waves in that area. Proceeding there may be dangerous." Alara smiled slightly. "You know, Sol, if humanity had avoided danger, we would never have left Earth." The AI responded in its calm voice. "A true statement. Preparing course to the Silent Frontier." As the engines hummed, Alara watched the stars drift past again. Somewhere, deep in the void, the Ark fleet waited, perhaps in ruins, perhaps still alive, perhaps turned into legends among alien races. Whatever the truth, she intended to find it. She opened her logbook and began to write. Log entry 23C, found Echo Node 7. The stars are not silent. They remember us. Every laugh, every dream, every goodbye. The next destination lies in the silent frontier. If this is my last entry, let it be known, humanity was not forgotten. During the long journey ahead, Ilara and Sol spent time decoding fragments from the archive. Among them were pieces of poetry, old songs, and records of human inventions. One file made Ilara laugh softly, an ancient recording of Earth's first contact with another species. In the video, a human diplomat nervously greeted a group of tall, silver-skinned beings saying, "We come in peace." The aliens had replied, "You always do." Ilara smiled warmly. Even in the stars, humanity had been known for its heart. A few days later, Artemis 9 crossed into the silent frontier. The stars here looked different, larger yet dimmer, as if they watched with quiet eyes. Strange, energy waves flickered in the distance and sensors showed faint readings of metallic objects far ahead. "Sul," Ilara said, leaning forward. "What's that?" The AI processed the data quickly. Possibly derelict vessels. Composition matches human alloys from the Ark fleet era. Her heart jumped. "Bring us closer." Slowly. As the ship approached, massive shapes began to emerge from the shadows. Enormous ships, silent and still, floating together in perfect formation. The largest bore the name Ark Nova in faded letters across its hull. Ilara stared, unable to speak. The fleet was there. After centuries, they were still here, resting in the darkness like sleeping giants. "Sul," she whispered. "They made it." The AI's voice was quiet. "It appears so. Shall we attempt communication?" Ilara hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. Let's wake them up." The ship sent out a signal, a simple, ancient code. For a moment, there was no response. Then, faintly, a return transmission came through. A voice filled the cabin, old and trembling, but human. "This is Commander Ilya Trent of the Ark Nova. Who are you?" Ilara felt tears in her eyes. "This is Dr. Ilara Voss, of Artemis 9. I'm human, from the colonies." There was silence, then a broken laugh. "Humanity still lives." Ilara smiled, her voice trembling. "Yes. And we're coming home." As the Artemis 9 drifted closer to the sleeping fleet, the stars around them shimmered faintly. It was as if the universe itself listened to that quiet reunion, the first in nearly 1,000 years. And in that vast silence, the stars whispered once more. They remembered the name humanity had given them, and they spoke it with light. The stars outside the Artemis 9 burned with slow silver light as Dr. Ilara Voss looked upon the silent giants floating ahead. The Ark fleet, humanity's last great voyage, had been sleeping for nearly 1,000 years. Their ships drifted in perfect formation, like a choir of frozen monuments. Each one was massive, covered in layers of dust and cosmic frost. But their design was unmistakably human. Curved lines, glowing insignias, and words written in the old Terran alphabet. Ilara could hardly breathe as she whispered, "They're real. They're really here." Her AI companion Sol replied softly, "Confirmed. All ships show minimal power. Only the vessel Ark Nova emits a weak life signal. Estimated crew status unknown." Ilara gripped the control panel. "Then we start there. Send a docking request." A short pause followed. The ship's comms crackled with static. Then a voice answered, tired, aged, but unmistakably human. "Artemis 9, this is Ark Nova. Docking port 3 is open." "Welcome home." Ilara smiled, her eyes bright. "Home," she whispered. After all this time, the docking process was slow. Centuries of dust and damage made the connection tricky. But finally, a metallic click confirmed the seal. The airlock lights turned green. Ilara put on her exploration suit, checked her wrist pad, and stepped forward. "Sul," she said softly, "stay linked to my suit. If anything happens, you take control of Artemis 9. "Understood," Sul replied. "Be careful, Dr. Voss." The door slid open with a soft hiss. A faint gust of air met her face. old, recycled, but breathable. She stepped inside and felt her boots touch human metal for the first time in centuries of history. The corridors of the Ark Nova were long and dim. Lights flickered weakly overhead, powered by the ship's failing core. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars disturbed by her steps. She passed faded murals of Earth, green forests, blue oceans, cities shining under sunlight. Words were carved beside them. We left not to flee, but to grow. Alara stopped and touched the wall gently. They still believed, she whispered. Then a voice came from ahead. And we still do. A man appeared at the end of the corridor, walking slowly with a cane. His face was lined with age, his hair white as snow, but his eyes shone with warmth and strength. He wore an old uniform marked with the insignia of the Ark Fleet. "I'm Commander Ilya Trent," he said. "You must be the one who answered the call." Alara nodded, speechless. "Dr. Alara Voss of Artemis 9, from the colonies of New Eden." He smiled softly. "Then humanity still lives. I prayed we hadn't been forgotten." "You weren't," she said firmly. "The stars remembered. They carried your message." For a long moment, the two just looked at each other. One born of the past, one born of the future. Both bound by the same name. Humanity. Commander Trent guided her through the ship. The halls were quiet but functional. A few working lights hummed faintly and screens flickered with ghostly images of long-ago logs. "How many of you are left?" Alara asked. Trent sighed. "Not many. Most entered deep cryosleep after the main engines failed. Our goal was to find a new homeworld. But after a solar storm crippled our fleet, we were stranded here. Some ships lost power completely." He stopped by a large window overlooking the rest of the fleet. Dozens of silent vessels drifted like islands in a black ocean. "We kept the faith," he said softly. "We believed one day someone would find us." Alara turned to him. "We found your beacons. The Echo network still works. The archives on Atlas Station and Echo Node 7 guided me here." The old commander's eyes brightened. "Then our legacy survived." "It did," she said. "And I think it's time humanity wakes up again." In the control room, faded lights glowed over consoles covered in dust. Old screens displayed maps of the fleet and fragments of coordinates. Alara could see how much effort they had made to stay alive. Backup power lines, energy recyclers, and even a small hydroponic bay still growing thin green plants under dim lamps. "This ship is incredible," she said quietly. Trent smiled proudly. "It was built to outlast us all. Humanity's final gift to itself." He tapped a panel and an old holographic globe appeared, Earth spinning slowly, blue and beautiful. "We wanted to make sure no one forgot where we came from." Alara felt a lump in her throat. "You didn't just survive? You preserved who we are." Trent turned to her. "Tell me, Dr. Voss, what is humanity like now?" Alara thought for a moment before answering. "Different. The colonies grew distant. We lost much of our history, and even our name faded from alien records. But our spirit remained, curiosity, courage, compassion. We still explore, still learn, still hope." The old man nodded slowly. "Then we did not fail. They spent hours restoring systems." Alara helped reconnect her ship's reactor to provide temporary power. Lights brightened and faint hums filled the hallways again. For the first time in centuries, Ark Nova felt alive. Sol's voice came through her wristcom. "Power transfer stable. Atmospheric control at 90%. Internal temperature rising to habitable levels." Trent smiled faintly. "Your AI is quite capable," Alara chuckled. "He's been my only companion for years." "I envy you," Trent said softly. "I once had a ship AI too. It kept us alive during the long dark. But its core burned out decades ago." Alara hesitated. "Maybe Sol can connect to your systems and help bring it back." Trent looked at her, hope flickering in his eyes. "If that's possible, it would mean more than you know." Hours later, Sol linked with the Ark Nova's central core. Data flowed like streams of light through the control room. Slowly, an old voice began to form. Soft, gentle, and almost human. "System reactivation complete. Identification AI unit Lyra online." Trent's eyes filled with tears. "Lyra, you're awake." "Commander Trent," the AI replied kindly. "You have not aged well." He laughed for the first time in years. "Neither have you, old friend." Alara smiled as she watched the reunion. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. Here, in this forgotten corner of the galaxy, humanity had come back to life, not through war or conquest, but through memory and love. Later that night, Ilara stood on the observation deck beside the commander. The stars outside shimmered faintly, reflected in the glass. "They're beautiful," she said. "Yes," Trent replied. "But beauty means nothing if no one remembers to see it." She looked at him. "Then we'll make sure they do. We'll send a signal to the colonies. We'll tell them the Ark fleet is alive." He nodded. "That was always our dream, to return not as ghosts but as family." Ilara smiled. "Then let's make that dream real." They worked together through the following days. Sol and Lyra rebuilt the communication grid, while Ilara and the remaining crew restored the engines. Each repair felt like reviving a heartbeat that had once been lost. Finally, after long effort, the command console lit up with a soft blue glow. Sol spoke. "Transmission ready." "Range, 10 light-years minimum." Ilara turned to Trent. "Would you like to do the honors?" The old commander smiled and stepped forward. His voice trembled but carried strength. "To all who can hear this is Commander Ilya Trent of the Ark Nova. We are the descendants of Earth, the keepers of humanity's last voyage. For centuries we slept beneath the stars waiting for a sign. Today one has come. Humanity lives and it remembers." He looked at Ilara and she finished the message. "This is Dr. Ilara Voss. The Ark fleet has been found. The stars have not forgotten us, and neither will we." The transmission was sent. A beam of light shot into the black, carrying their words across the vast emptiness. Afterward, they stood quietly, watching the signal disappear into the endless night. Trent whispered, "Do you think anyone will hear?" Ilara smiled gently. "I think the stars already have." The commander chuckled softly. "You speak like a poet." "Maybe that's all we ever were," she said. "Storytellers among the stars." Outside, the stars seemed to flicker, as if answering back, and though neither could explain it, both felt something warm in that moment, as if the universe itself had paused to listen. Because when the stars remembered, they whispered humanity's name first. The message from the Ark fleet traveled faster than any ship could fly, carried across the void by light, energy, and hope. It passed through silent planets, drifting stations, and forgotten colonies. Wherever humanity had left its mark, echoes of the words appeared. Humanity lives, and it remembers. On New Eden, Dr. Ilara Voss watched the signal arrive in the communication hub. Alarms didn't sound, but a soft hum of recognition filled the room. The monitors flickered, displaying the historic transmission. Faces turned, eyes wide. Children paused in play, elders in contemplation. Every human in some way felt it. Ilara's own eyes shimmered with tears. "It worked," she whispered. "They heard us." Sewell, her AI companion, spoke softly. "Signal strength confirms reception by every active colony in the sector. Response time estimated variable, but hope is already spreading." The small room erupted in excitement as technicians began preparing for responses. Ships that had sat idle for decades powered up. Explorers lifted off from colonies, and laboratories sent out messages of solidarity. Humanity, once scattered and forgotten, was awakening. On a distant world, Haven 3, a city built entirely in orbit around a gas giant, the citizens gathered at public displays. The transmission from Ark Nova played across every screen. Children watched wide-eyed as Commander Trent's aged face appeared, declaring that the fleet survived. Among them, a young engineer named Kai Norin clenched his fists. "We thought we were alone," he said softly. "But we weren't. We were never alone." Across the galaxy, humans shared similar emotions: joy, relief, and a quiet, stubborn pride. Memories of the past, stories of ancestors, and legends of Earth surged back, as if the stars themselves whispered reminders. Humanity remembered itself, and in doing so, its spirit ignited. Back aboard Ark Nova, Ilara and Commander Trent monitored responses from distant colonies. Each transmission they received brought new hope. Planets sent coordinates of survivors, ships that had lain dormant for centuries began to activate, and old records of human knowledge were shared. Ilara studied a holographic map of the sector. Blue dots glowed where colonies had responded. Red dots marked fleets still dormant. "We've only just begun," she said softly. "The universe is listening, and we need to speak louder." Trent nodded. "Then we awaken the rest. Humanity cannot remain hidden forever. For the next several days, the Ark fleet became a beacon. Ships once abandoned slowly powered up. Some had autonomous systems that had waited patiently, as if sensing the call. Others required careful repair, and Alara worked tirelessly with Sul and Lyra to restore them. In the midst of it, the crew found relics of the past, personal journals, music recordings, scientific data. They discovered stories of laughter, exploration, and moments of quiet triumph. Every artifact carried the soul of humanity, untouched by time or loss. Alara often wandered the observation decks at night, looking at the stars and thinking about the countless humans who had lived, dreamed, and fought to survive. They believed we'd find them, she whispered. And we did. They trusted the stars, and the stars remembered. Sol responded softly. Hope is a form of memory. When one remembers, it spreads, Alara smiled. Then we have hope in abundance. Among the reawakened fleets, a young captain named Lyra Cade, descendant of the Eden Project, finally spoke to her crew. We are part of something greater. Our ancestors left us a legacy, and it's our duty to carry it forward. The stars whispered our name first, and now it's our turn to answer. The crew cheered quietly, mindful of centuries of waiting. They began preparing for long-distance travel, reconnecting with distant colonies and sharing knowledge that had been lost. Alara joined them during one briefing. She showed maps, projected coordinates, and star charts recovered from the Echo network. We are not alone, she said. We never were. Humanity's name still matters. Every colony, every ship, every person, and we are one. The stars are reminding us, and now it is time we remind ourselves. In the years that followed, humanity's scattered colonies began to re-establish contact. Scientists exchanged discoveries, engineers repaired ancient vessels, and children learned histories that had once been erased. The galaxy, which had long considered humanity a fleeting memory, now recognized them anew. In the mid-orbit of Aurora Station, a hub rebuilt from relics of past human colonies, elders and children alike gathered to watch the stars. Children asked questions about Earth, the Ark fleet, and the stars themselves. Elders smiled, knowing that history had come full circle. Alara stood among them, her eyes reflecting the glow of distant suns. The stars remembered us first, she said softly to a group of young children. But now we must remember ourselves, and never forget to reach for the stars again. The awakening was not just technological. Humanity began to share knowledge with new species, long-forgotten allies, and curious civilizations. Messages of peace, exploration, and learning spread like gentle waves across the galaxy. Humans remembered how to dream not just for themselves, but for everyone. On one remote ice world, an alien historian recorded the words of the Ark fleet. These beings once vanished into legend. Now they return, not as conquerors, but as students and teachers. Their light shines because they remember themselves and the stars. Alara, listening through the transmission, smiled. Humanity had become what it always was meant to be, resilient, kind, and curious. Even as new colonies powered up and the Ark fleet sailed across the stars, Alara never stopped exploring. She visited ancient stations, activated more echo nodes, and recorded the stories of survivors. Each node revealed new insights, art, science, language, and culture, all waiting patiently for someone to remember. One day, she stood aboard the Ark Nova, looking at the vast fleet now assembled around them. Ships from long-lost colonies shone brightly in formation. She turned to Commander Trent, who had become a father figure and mentor. We did it, she said quietly. Trent smiled, his eyes reflecting the brilliance of countless stars. We only needed someone to answer the call. Humanity is awake again, and the universe is listening. Alara placed her hand on the console, feeling the energy of the fleet surge through the ship. Then we begin a new chapter, one where our story will never be forgotten. The stars themselves seemed to respond. Across the galaxy, light shimmered in ways that humans could not explain. Patterns emerged in constellations, subtle waves in the cosmic dust. It was as if the universe acknowledged the return of those it had once whispered about. In that silent acknowledgement, Alara felt a deep sense of connection. Humanity's name had traveled far and wide, whispered by stars, carried by light, and now spoken again by humans across the galaxy. She whispered back, softly and firmly, "We are here, and we remember." Sol's voice, calm as ever, responded, The stars and humans are now in harmony. Memory has become action. The universe will notice. Ilara looked at the stars, reflecting on the journey so far. Humanity had been forgotten, but it had survived. They had listened to the call of the past, and now they were writing a new story among the stars. "Let's make it worth remembering," she said softly. As humanity continued to awaken across the stars, fleets moved between colonies, reconnecting distant systems. Communication grids restored old knowledge, and learning once again became humanity's greatest pursuit. Children on every planet looked up at the night sky, seeing not just stars but a history of resilience and hope. They told stories of explorers like Ilara, of the Ark fleet, and of the Echo Network, the bridges that had kept humanity alive in the memory of the universe. Everywhere, there was excitement and wonder. Every human, no matter how far from Earth, felt the unity that had once been lost. Ilara stood on the observation deck of the Ark Nova, looking at the bustling fleets, the reconnecting colonies, and the shimmering stars. She felt a quiet pride, a sense of purpose, and the warmth of knowing that humanity's story was still unfolding. The stars had remembered first. Humanity had answered, and now the galaxy would never forget. The galaxy had awakened. Colonies long thought abandoned now gleamed under artificial suns. Ships that had drifted for centuries moved again, powered by ingenuity, hope, and the energy of renewed purpose. Humanity, once fragmented and forgotten, had become whole once more. Aboard the Ark Nova, Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the observation deck, watching the fleets converge. Commander Ilya Trent was beside her, older now but eyes bright with pride. Lyra, the AI of the Ark, hummed softly as systems balanced, and Sol monitored connections across the vast network of human settlements. "This is beyond what I imagined," Ilara whispered. "It's perfect," Trent nodded. "We never dreamed it would be like this. Humanity, alive again, together, looking forward." The fleets moved in formation toward a cluster of systems known as the Celestial Archipelago, a series of star systems rich with planets suitable for settlement. Explorers, scientists, and engineers collaborated to establish new trade routes, communication channels, and research stations. Ilara had taken on the role of ambassador and historian, traveling between fleets and colonies, recording stories, and teaching the younger generations about their past. In one newly established colony on Aurora 7, children gathered under artificial skies to hear her speak. "Your ancestors built wonders," she said gently. "They crossed the stars not to conquer, but to learn. Every step you take now is built on their courage. Remember them, and you will never be lost." The children's eyes shone with wonder. For them, humanity's story was no longer myth. It was real, living, and unfolding. Meanwhile, scientists aboard the fleet worked tirelessly to restore ancient knowledge. Echo nodes, once scattered and silent, were reactivated. Data from Atlas Station Delta 9 Theta and other repositories poured in, revealing forgotten technologies, scientific breakthroughs, and cultural treasures. Ilara joined a team in one of the restored labs. They activated a holographic map of human exploration, showing every colony, fleet route, and research station. "Look at this," she said, pointing to clusters of blue lights. "Every one of these points is a story of survival, of resilience. Humanity's name is no longer whispered only by the stars. It is spoken everywhere." A young engineer smiled. "We thought we were the last. Now it feels like we've become the beginning." Ilara nodded. "Exactly. We are the continuation of everything that came before, and the start of everything to come." The Ark fleet itself had become more than a collection of ships. It had become a symbol. Wherever it traveled, it carried hope. Colonies that had been isolated for centuries received resources, knowledge, and encouragement. Old rivalries faded as humanity rediscovered unity. During one fleet meeting, Commander Trent addressed leaders of several colonies through a holographic network. "We have been scattered by time, but united by memory. Now let us move forward together. Let every star that witnessed our absence also witness our return. We will explore, learn, and build, as one species, proud and free." The colonies responded with enthusiasm. Cheers echoed across the network. Ships took off from their stations, joining the Ark fleet, forming an immense human armada stretching across light years. Ilara spent nights reflecting on the journey. She remembered how she had found Atlas Station, the Echo nodes, and finally the Ark fleet. Each step had been a small spark, fragile, faint, but capable of growing into a blazing fire. She stood on the observation deck one evening looking at the stars. Somewhere beyond, light flickered from planets she had yet to visit. She whispered softly, "We have come so far, and yet there is still so much ahead." Sol's voice replied, gentle as ever, "Humanity's journey is endless, Dr. Voss, but the stars remember you now, as much as you remember them." Ilara smiled. "Then we will continue together." Exploration resumed at an unprecedented pace. Humans discovered new worlds, revived abandoned colonies, and mapped uncharted sectors. Contact was made with friendly alien species who had watched humanity quietly over the centuries, curious about the humans who had once disappeared. Diplomats and scientists carried stories of the Ark fleet, teaching others that humanity was not defined by war or conquest, but by curiosity, empathy, and perseverance. In this way, humanity's reputation spread, whispered first by the stars, now spoken loudly by its own people. One day, aboard the Ark Nova, Ilara and Trent entered the ship's hall of records. Holographic archives filled the room containing images, music, literature, and scientific achievements spanning centuries. Trent placed a hand on a console. "These are the dreams of those who came before. They trusted we would survive, and now their dreams are ours to carry forward." Ilara nodded, feeling a warmth she had never experienced before. "And we will carry them not as burdens but as gifts. We will honor their courage by exploring further, learning more, and sharing what we find." A fleet-wide signal traveled across the galaxy, inviting all human colonies, awakened or dormant, to gather at the celestial archipelago. Ships responded from systems never thought reachable. Some came from colonies barely sustaining life, others from worlds thriving quietly, unaware of humanity's reunion. When the fleets arrived, the sight was breathtaking. Hundreds of ships formed patterns around the cluster of stars, glowing softly in orbit. Planets that had been distant and lonely now had neighbors, allies, and friends. Humanity had built a new network, not just of technology, but of hearts and hope. Ilara stood at the front of the Ark Nova, gazing at the fleet. Commander Trent placed a hand on her shoulder. "They will remember this day forever," he said. "Yes," Ilara replied, "because we remembered each other first." As the fleet settled, children played in orbital gardens, exploring nature simulators and learning about planets beyond their homeworlds. Scientists and engineers worked side by side, sharing knowledge across generations. Every corner of the celestial archipelago was alive with activity. Ilara joined a small group exploring a newly discovered planet. Its surface was rich with minerals and oceans, a perfect place for settlement. She touched the soil and smiled. "This is what they dreamed for. We've arrived, not to claim but to understand and care." The group nodded. Humanity had learned from its past. Its presence was not a conquest but a stewardship, guided by memory and respect. At night, the stars themselves seemed to shimmer differently. Light from distant galaxies reflected on the hulls of the Ark fleet. It was as if the universe recognized that humanity had returned, not with weapons, but with wisdom and hope. Ilara stood on the observation deck, whispering to the vastness, "We have returned. We remember, and we will continue." Sol's voice responded softly, "The stars have already whispered your name. Now humanity speaks to them in return." Ilara smiled, knowing it was true. Humanity's story was no longer just survival. It was exploration, compassion, and unity. The galaxy had witnessed their return, and the stars themselves had become allies and witnesses. Months passed and humanity grew. Colonies expanded, trade and communication networks flourished, and fleets explored new horizons. Art, music, science, and philosophy thrived as never before. Humanity had become a beacon, not of domination but of inspiration. Ilara continued to travel among the stars, carrying stories of survival, courage, and discovery. Wherever she went, she reminded people, the stars had remembered humanity first. Now it was their turn to remember themselves. One evening, as Ilara stood on the Ark Nova's observation deck, she looked at a distant sun rising over an untouched planet. The stars behind it shimmered like ancient candles, silent witnesses to the galaxy's rebirth. She whispered softly, "We are here. We remember, and the stars remember us too." A quiet hum of recognition seemed to answer her, the universe itself responding to humanity's song. Commander Trent joined her, leaning on the railing. "It is a new dawn," he said, eyes reflecting the light of distant worlds. "Yes," Ilara replied. "A dawn built by memory, hope, and courage. Humanity's name will never fade again." The stars shone brighter than ever, carrying their name across the galaxy. Humanity had returned, united, and ready to explore the infinite reaches of space, not as wanderers but as keepers of their own story. And in that light, the universe listened, learned, and remembered.